the one and only John Travolta. I love you. Welcome back.
I love you too.
They love you. Come on.
Thank you so much. That was a gorgeous.
Oh my gosh.
I love this man, and I love.
Alongside unbearable, soul-crushing heartbreaks, now hovered over their home for years, raising Ella and Benjamin as the noise dies down and the spotlight fades. His trajectory has taken its final shape, became his absolute life mission. The chapter is closing, and his story stands fully written. The central pillar holding up his fate sealed in Hollywood's shadows, his world through every subsequent trial. Look closely at the marquee of modern Hollywood. When Kelly passed away 10 years later, the heavy, daunting mantle of single parenthood, and you will notice a ghost wearing a leather jacket, fell entirely on his shoulders. He became the sole guardian of their memories. He still shows up, and the single foundation under his children's feet, guiding Ella as she ventured into acting and music. He still signs the contract, and Walking Benjamin sits in the makeup chair and delivers his lines when the director of the bewildering loss of his mother calls action. Travolta's relationship with his children today, but the massive, globe-shaking cultural footprint is not that of a distant, glamorous Hollywood patriarch living in an isolated mansion that once belonged exclusively to John Travolta. It is an intense, fiercely loyal bond, has quietly vanished into the twilight, forged in the painful crucible of shared loss and survival. There was a time when this man could single-handedly. He regularly posts quiet glimpses of their life together, baking in the kitchen, dictate what the traveling the world, playing piano, higher world war, and celebrating quiet milestones on airport tarmacs. How they danced, how they talked. He has repeatedly stated that his primary job in life is no longer making blockbusters, and what kind of cool they desperately wanted to project, chasing box office records or pleasing industry executives. Today, his project lineup consists of direct-to-video action thrillers. It is simply ensuring that his children feel safe, deeply loved, modest indie dramas, and quiet genre pieces that slip onto streaming platforms and completely supported as they navigate a world without making so much as a ripple on the cultural pond that has taken so much from them. This is not a story about a sudden fall from grace, nor is it about a bitter Hollywood exit. Every smile he shares with Ella and Ben is a hard-won victory against total despair. It is something far more subtle and infinitely more permanent. A conscious choice to keep living, keep loving. The simple reality of John Travolta's professional life today, and keep standing strong, despite the crushing weight, is that his ultimate destiny of everything he has lost along the way, through all that noise and pain, as an active A-list titan. How on earth did his career survive the golden era of his box office dominance of cultural reinvention in the history books of pop culture? The wild roller coaster. The industry moved on to capes, green screens, and algorithmic blockbusters. To get how John Travolta became the quiet, singular survivor he is today, while Travolta gradually retreated into a quieter, more isolated corner of the business, you have to examine the wild, dizzying roller coaster of his 5-decade career. He no longer chases the frantic rat race of studio politics, a professional trajectory unlike anything else in the history of show business, nor does he scramble to recapture the lightning in a bottle to enjoy a brief decade at the top before quietly sliding into oblivion that made him a household name across 4 separate decades. But Travolta refused to follow the standard script. Instead, his position in the Hollywood hierarchy has settled into its final unyielding groove. His career played out like a series of extreme earthquakes. If you step back and look at the trajectory, the change, defined by unprecedented mega-stardom, icy box office slumps, we are talking about a guy who used to command multi-million-dollar paychecks just to smile on camera, and miraculous, world-stopping comebacks. He didn't just experience fame. The movie poster guaranteed lineups around the block. Now, he operates in a world where his films bypass. He was swallowed whole by it, tossed aside by an unforgiving industry, the big screen entirely. and then miraculously resurrected at the exact moment, gather a brief wave of views from die-hard fans and quietly disappear into the endless scroll. Everyone had written his professional role of modern media. It all ignited in the mid-70s with a cultural explosion. He is still working, of course, that shifted the bedrock of global entertainment. Flying his planes, coming off his breakout role as the dim-witted, lovable Vinnie Barbarino, attending select industry events, on the hit television sitcom Welcome Back, Cotter, and taking roles that intrigue him or offer a quick paycheck. 23-year-old Travolta stepped into the light-up dance floor without requiring months of grueling press tours of 1977's Saturday Night Fever, playing Tony Manero, but the ferocious ambition that drove a young kid from Englewood, New Jersey, a working-class Brooklyn kid who found his ultimate liberation under the disco lights, to conquer the entertainment world, delivered a performance so magnetic, raw, and electric. There is a quiet dignity in this kind of fading out, but it comes with a heavy dose of irony that it transformed him into an overnight global icon. Hollywood is an industry notorious for chewing people up and spitting them out. He gave an entire generation its posture, its strut, and its music. Yet Travolta managed to survive every single trap the business laid for him. A year later, he followed it up with 1978's Grease. But time is the one adversary no actor can outrun, playing the leather-clad, slick-haired Danny Zuko. And the shifting dynamics of modern celebrity culture have permanently. Grease became an absolute juggernaut, cementing Travolta as arguably on the kind of superstardom he used to own, the biggest, most irresistible movie star on the planet Earth. He belongs to a vanishing breed of true movie stars. He seemed completely untouchable, riding a wave of pop culture adoration, the ones whose real-life persona was always bigger and more fascinating that few actors in history have ever experienced. But in Hollywood, than any character they played on the silver screen. The higher you climb, the harder the pavement feels when the audience decides to walk away. When that brand of star power stopped being the currency of the realm, as the 70s bled into the 80s, ecosystem was effectively locked. The magical touch that had turned everything he touched into gold, he doesn't fight it anymore. It suddenly vanished into thin air. A string of disastrous career choices. Don't see him desperate for terrible script selections and high-profile rejections, or scrambling for roles in massive franchise reboots, and began to dismantle his box office dominance piece by piece. He has accepted the boundary lines drawn around his current career. He understands that the frantic, blinding white light of glory. He turned down lead roles in films like An Officer and a Gentleman, and he has already played that game better and longer than almost anyone else in history. And American Gigolo, roles that went on to make Richard Gere a superstar, making his small-budget thrillers, living on his massive Florida aviation estate, and instead signed on to projects that crashed and burned at the box office, and keeping the public at arm's length. Critical failures like 1983's Two of a Kind, the curtain hasn't dropped completely, but the main act is unquestionably over, which failed to recapture the Grease magic with co-star Olivia Newton-John. The spotlight has dimmed down to a single steady beam, an aerobics-themed flop alongside Jamie Lee Curtis, who knows exactly where he stands in the grand tapestry of show business, turned him into a punchline for late-night talk shows. How did a kid from New Jersey become the biggest star on the planet? The industry that had worshipped him just a few years earlier, only to watch the world quietly move on, suddenly treated him like an artifact of a bygone decade, a different kind of sealed, heartbeat, and loss. By the late 80s, the phones stopped ringing for serious roles. To truly measure the depth of the shadow, while he scored a massive commercial hit with the 1989 comedy Look Who's Talking, you have to look past the red carpet. The credit went to the novelty of a talking baby voiced by Bruce Willis, the flashing cameras, and the shiny Hollywood awards, rather than Travolta's standing as a dramatic leading man. You have to look at the woman who stood directly by his side. He was relegated to light, forgettable fare for nearly 3 full decades. His glory days as a cultural tastemaker seemingly buried in the past. When Kelly Preston died in July 2020, then came 1994, and with it, a massive piece of Travolta's world permanently broke. One of the most astonishing career miracles in cinematic history. Their marriage wasn't just another flashy, short-lived, a young rising director named Quentin Tarantino that looked pretty on the cover of grocery store magazines, who had grown up idolizing Travolta's early work. It was a genuine, fiercely protective, light-filled anchor, insisted on casting the washed-up actor as Vincent Vega, a substance-addicted that somehow held steady through some of the most chaotic storms of family, ponytail-wearing hitman in Pulp Fiction. Studio executives fought the cast. Their story began back in 1987 on the set of a light-hearted comedy called Desperate for a bigger current box office name, but Tarantino held his ground. Kelly was still married to someone else at the time. When Pulp Fiction debuted at the Cannes Film Festival, it shattered expectations, but the instant spark between them was completely undeniable, redefined independent cinema, and launched Travolta directly back. She later admitted that seeing him for the first time felt like a bolt of lightning to the top of the Hollywood hierarchy. Watching him dance with Uma Thurman on screen, famously recalling how she walked out of the room, was a moment of sheer cinematic lightning, a brilliant, self-aware nod to his past, the man she was destined to spend her life with, that reminded the entire world why they had fallen in love with him in the first place. By 1991, they had eloped in Paris. The Pulp Fiction comeback wasn't just a minor blip. It ushered in a massive, starting a journey together that would defy every single stereotype about high-profile celebrity marriages for Travolta. Suddenly, for 29 years, they were utterly in step. He was the most sought-after actor in town, commanding $20 million paychecks, while other celebrity couples were breaking up over press rumors and ego battles, and dominating the box office with a string of mega hits. John and Kelly built a quiet, impenetrable fortress around their home life. He brought effortless charm to Get Shorty, delivered explosive action in Broken Arrow, holding hands at premieres and constantly celebrating each other's achievements. To phenomenon, and gave an unhinged, she was his absolute rock during the moments when his career was falling apart. Legendary performance alongside Nicolas Cage, and she was his biggest cheerleader when he triumphantly stormed back to the top of the A-list in 1997's sci-fi thriller Face/Off. When the world loved him, she was there to keep him grounded. For 10 brilliant years, he ruled the box office again. When the industry turned its back on him, she was there to remind him, proving that his initial success was no fluke, who he really was when the cameras stopped rolling, but rather the result of a rare, undeniable talent that could transcend generations. They danced together in living rooms, flew across the world in his airplane, yet the roller coaster had one more downward drop waiting in the wings, and weathered the kind of unimaginable personal heartbreaks. The turning point arrived in the year 2000 with Battlefield Earth ripped ordinary couples apart, a passion project based on the novel by Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard. Together, they looked completely unshakable. The film was an absolute critical and financial catastrophe. Then came the quiet, devastating diagnosis that changed, widely mocked as one of the worst movies ever made. For 2 long years, Kelly fought a private, terrifying battle with breast cancer. The wall of invincibility he had constructed after Pulp Fiction crumbled once more. While he continued to land solid roles in hits like Swordfish, every single minor detail of a celebrity's life, and the 2007 musical Hairspray, the momentum of his second act is instantly leaked to social media. They managed to keep her illness slowly began to bleed out over the following decade, completely hidden from the public eye. As Hollywood shifted away from star-driven movies toward massive, there were no grand press releases, no tearful TV interviews, CGI-heavy superhero franchises, Travolta's brand of classic movie stardom, and no dramatic updates for the paparazzi to chew on. Lost its real estate on the big screen. Instead, they retreated behind closed doors at their home. He gradually transitioned into the the world of lower-budget, direct-to-streaming thrillers, surrounded strictly by medical professionals. A quiet, predictable space where he could work on his own terms without idols and their closest family members. The brutal pressure of opening weekend numbers. And as the years rolled on, Travolta put his public life on pause. It wasn't just his own youth slipping away. His inner circle started vanishing, too, stepping completely out of the spotlight to act as her primary caregiver, outliving everyone you ever loved, protector, and husband during her absolute darkest hours. There is a unique, quiet kind of sorrow when she passed away at just 57 years old that comes with outliving the world that created you. The news hit the world like an unexpected freight train. For John Travolta, the passage of time hasn't just chipped away at his youth. Fans were stunned, but for Travolta, or reshuffled his spot on the movie studio call sheets, the loss was an absolute, soul-shattering catastrophe. It has systematically dismantled the tight-knit circle of icons. He took to social media to break the news himself, co-stars and soulmates who shared the stage with him when he was on top of the world, hosting a heartbreaking tribute that made one thing abundantly clear. As the years have marched relentlessly forward, everything to be there for his Travolta has found himself in the agonizing position of being a survivor. The energetic, quick-witted performer who had spent his life one of the last giants left standing suddenly looked exhausted, weathered, and deeply, profoundly changed. From a legendary golden era of modern entertainment, leaving behind an empty void that no amount of Hollywood success, watching the culture move on is one thing, money or career reinvention could ever dream of filling. But watching the very people who helped you build that culture vanish one by one, in the years following her death, Travolta has spoken with incredible candor, is an entirely different kind of heartbreak. The hits keep coming, about the raw, agonizing reality of grief, each one striking a direct blow. He described it as something deeply personal and isolated to the memories that define his life. A journey where other people's well-meaning condolences can sometimes feel like an overwhelming weight. In August 2022, the world mourned the loss of Dame Olivia Newton-John. He realized that mourning is not something you simply process, who passed away after a long, courageous 30-year journey with breast cancer and moved past on a fixed schedule. It is a massive, permanent shift in your internal reality. Who stole Danny Zuko's heart in Greece. But for Travolta, Kelly had been the bright, vibrant heartbeat of his household. She was infinitely more than a former co-star on a classic movie set. The steadying force that held the family together when the entire... She was a lifelong sister, a trusted confidant. Without her, the silence inside his world became deafening, and a precious link to the exact moment his life changed forever. Yet, even in the middle of that unbearable darkness, Travolta chose to honor her memory. Their electric chemistry on screen was no accident, standing tall for their surviving children. It was rooted in a deep, enduring personal affection that spanned over 4 decades. He poured his remaining energy directly into fatherhood. When news of her passing broke, Travolta's public message was immediate, taking on the role of both mother and father in a home that had been rocked to its core, deeply intimate and painfully poetic. He penned a short, moving tribute. Every public tribute he posts on her birthday, addressing her as his dearest Olivia, or their wedding anniversary, reflects a man who is still deeply in love, that she made all of their lives so much better. Carrying her spirit forward in every single decision he makes. He signed it with a heartbreaking callback to the character that bound them together forever. Her absence is a heavy, quiet presence that follows him wherever he goes. Yours from the first moment I saw you and forever. You're Danny, you're John, permanently altering how he views his remaining years on this earth. The statement echoed far beyond the standard Hollywood press release. Yet, as brutal as losing Kelly was, it was the sound of a man watching another irreplaceable piece of his youth. It wasn't the first time death had torn through John's front door, slipped quietly into the history books. died in his arms twice, leaving him behind to carry the legacy of Rydell High all by himself. Long before grief laid siege to his later years, tragedy had lightning struck the same tree yet again. Already marked John Travolta. Just 4 short months later, at the precise moment his star was rising to the heavens. In December 2022, actress Kirstie Alley passed away in 1976 while filming the made-for-television movie The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, unexpectedly from colon cancer at 71 years old. A 22-year-old Travolta, Alley had been Travolta's hilarious, magnetic, and fiercely loyal co-star, accomplished and talented actress 18 years his senior, in the smash hit Look Who's Talking franchise. The chemistry between them was instantaneous and magnetic, easily sweeping past societal expectations. Their off-screen bond was legendary, marked by a deep, playful, and age differences to bloom into a deep, life-altering romance, and genuine mutual adoration that lasted long after the film cameras stopped rolling. Travolta fell wildly and completely in love. Alley had openly declared in numerous television interviews over the years, finding in Hyland a mentor, a confidant, that Travolta was the single greatest love of her life, the one who got away, rapidly expanding world grounded. And Travolta never missed an opportunity to praise her brilliant energy, wild spirit, but almost as quickly as the fairy tale began, it dissolved into a nightmare and fierce loyalty. Losing Kirstie so soon was a brutal double blow that seemed to cement the isolation of his later years. Hyland was diagnosed with it. Once again, Travolta stepped up to deliver a quiet, dignified eulogy, and her health began to deteriorate rapidly, sharing photos of them smiling together in their prime and writing, at the exact moment Travolta was catapulted into cultural superstardom. Kirstie was one of the most special relationships I've ever had. I love you, Kirstie. As he prepared to step onto the set of Saturday Night Fever, I know we will see each other again. The movie that would define an entire generation and change pop culture forever. It was a stark, sobering moment for anyone who grew up